since World War II.
The world is waiting to see just how far Putin's 190,000 troops will go into the country of Ukraine.
Тоже есть оружие, да знают об этом. Сейчас только я сказал. Тоже есть оружие, которое может поражать цели на их территории. И что все они придумывают сейчас, чем пугают весь мир, что все это реально грозит конфликтом с использованием ядерного оружия, а значит уничтожением цивилизации. А ничего этого не понимают, что ли?
Hey everyone, and welcome back to our channel. We're happy to see you join us today as we discuss Vladimir Putin's imperialist worldview, a topic of great importance. This is an important problem since it impacts not just Russia, but the entire world community as well.
Западные страны веками твердят о том, что они несут другим народам свободу и демократию. Все с точностью да наоборот.
Experts have been debating Putin's genuine motivations for his actions for years. Some regard him as a clever tactician, while others see a leader motivated by the ambition to bring Russia back to its former greatness.
In Russia today, the clear winner of the Russian presidential election, Vladimir Putin, began to establish the Putin era.
Vladimir Putin, the career spy.
Vladimir Putin has had an interesting political journey. He served as Russia's president from 2000 to 2008.
При осуществлении полномочий президента Российской Федерации.
Then he took on the role of prime minister from 2008 to 2012.
Putin thanked delegates for their positive reaction to the suggestion that he should run again for the presidency. I'm deeply honored, he said.
After which he returned to the presidency in 2012.
In performing my duties as the president of the Russian Federation, I pledge to respect and protect the rights and liberties
Before joining politics, he had a background in law and even worked for the KGB, the Soviet Union security agency, where he served as an intelligence officer. Under President Boris Yeltsin, he advanced through the ranks of Russian politics and took over as acting president, following Yeltsin's resignation in 1999. Putin is known for his pragmatic approach to governing, nationalism, and a strong emphasis on centralization of authority. Putin has pursued several domestic and international policies during his presidency to solidify Russia's standing in the world and establish authority at home. Both domestically and globally, Putin's leadership style and policies have elicited praise and condemnation. He is still a prominent and important player in modern international politics. Imperialism is when a country seeks to increase its power and influence through diplomacy.
What my personal assessment is, I think he is fully capable of building a prosperous, strong Russia while preserving freedom and pluralism and the rule of law.
Or military force. It's about expanding control over other territories, often with little regard for the wishes of the people living there. Put simply, it's the conviction that Russia ought to be a major force, able to exert influence and control over its neighbors and other countries. This picture stems from an idealized perception of the Tsarist era and Russia's imperial past. We seek to clarify the effects of Putin's imperialist vision for Russia and the rest of the world through unbiased analysis. Understanding his goals and tactics helps us better comprehend the intricacies of modern politics and Russia's place in them.
Перешагнула свои национальные границы и, по сути, во всех сферах, и в экономике, и в политике, и в гуманитарной сфере навязывается другим государствам. Ну, кому это понравится? Кому это понравится?
Russia's long-standing, centuries-old imperialist aspirations are well established. The idea of a huge Russian empire has long been popular, from Peter the Great's rule to the Soviet Union's expansionist goals. Gaining an understanding of this historical background is essential to understanding Putin's imperialist agenda. Russia had a significant impact throughout the Soviet era on sections of Eastern Europe, Central Asia, and the Middle East, in addition to its own borders. But the fall of the Soviet Union in 1991 destroyed Russia's standing as a world superpower and produced a power vacuum. A sea change in Russian politics occurred in 1999 when Vladimir Putin was elected for the presidency. Having served in the KGB, Putin was well versed in the nation's power structures and promptly embarked on a mission to bring back Russia's glory. Putin's vision for Russia is based on a mix of nationalism, authoritarianism, and the goal to make Russia once again a major player in the world. He sought to stop the Soviet Union's collapse since he considered it a terrible affair.
Крым – это наше общее достояние и важнейший фактор стабильности в регионе. И эта стратегическая территория должна находиться под сильным, устойчивым суверенитетом, который по факту может быть только российским сегодня.
When it comes to his expansionist goals, Putin's actions are what really tell the story. One of the clearest examples is Russia's takeover of Crimea in 2014 when they forcefully took control of the peninsula from Ukraine. This move was seen as a bold display of Putin's imperialist ambitions and a direct challenge to the established global order. Following political upheaval in Ukraine, Russia forcibly annexed the Crimean Peninsula into its borders in 2014, a move known as the Annexation of Crimea. Vladimir Putin, the president of Russia, masterminded this action, which in many ways exemplifies his imperialist vision. Putin's choice to annex Crimea showed that Russia was prepared to use force to increase its territory. Putin challenged the post-Cold War order and reaffirmed Russia's supremacy in its sphere of influence by annexing Crimea. He exploited nationalist feelings to defend the invasion by framing the takeover as a defense of ethnic Russians and Russian-speaking residents in Crimea.
You want the Russian army to come here? It's our family. It's not Russian army. It's our family. They protect us.
This story strengthened home audiences' support for his actions and presented Russia as a defender of its citizens overseas. Russia demonstrated its military might and willingness to project force outside of its boundaries with the quick and well-planned military operation to take control of Crimea. Putin's focus on updating Russia's military assets demonstrates his determination to project power and influence internationally. The world community condemned the annexation of Crimea because it violated international law and ignored Ukraine's sovereignty.
The Russian military must stand down, the aspirations of the Ukrainian people must be respected, and political dialogue must be allowed to continue.
Putin prioritizes Russian interests over diplomatic consensus, as seen by his readiness to disregard international law to achieve his strategic goals.
Потому что мы вместе.
We are together. This means we have become even stronger, and I congratulate you on the great victory.
Putin's imperialist vision has had a profound impact on neighboring countries, particularly those within Russia's sphere of influence. Because of the annexation of Crimea and the ongoing conflict in eastern Ukraine, Ukraine has been most affected. The nation is currently experiencing violence and instability because of Putin's forceful tactics and backing for separatist forces in eastern Ukraine. The region is now unstable, and tensions between Russia and the West have increased because of these measures. Tensions between Kyiv and Moscow have persisted because of the invasion of Crimea, which put Ukraine's territorial integrity and sovereignty in jeopardy. The situation is being exacerbated by Russia's participation in the Donbas region, which is impeding efforts to find a peaceful solution. With their historical connections to Russia and worries about Russian interventionism, the Baltic nations, Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania view Putin's imperialist aims with dread. NATO partners have been forced to enhance their defensive capabilities in the region as a result of increased military activity along their borders. And incidents like airspace violations that have heightened tensions. Putin's determination to undermine Georgia's sovereignty and exercise influence in the Caucasus is demonstrated by Russia's military engagement in Georgia, especially during the 2008 Russo-Georgian War, and the subsequent recognition of separatist regions Abkhazia and South Ossetia. The unsolved disputes are still putting strain on relations between Moscow and Tbilisi. Russia has put pressure on Moldova, a country with pro-European goals, especially in relation to the breakaway territory of Transnistria. Moldova's road toward EU membership is made more difficult by Putin's backing of separatist movements and attempts to retain power in the nation's internal politics. NATO countries that border Russia, Poland, and Romania have voiced concerns about Putin's confrontational policies and military buildup. To prevent further attacks and protect their security interests, they support a strong NATO presence in the area. Also, Russia's influence in the Middle East was asserted by Putin's 2015 military involvement in Syria, which was also intended to strengthen the Assad dictatorship. Russia showed its determination to project force beyond its borders and its imperialist goals by demonstrating its military might. Putin's imperialist agenda has been met with a combination of diplomatic pressure, sanctions, and condemnation from the world community. Western nations widely denounced the takeover of Crimea and imposed economic sanctions as a result. Vladimir Putin's concept of empire is seen with alarm and opposition. Western nations have continuously opposed Putin's conduct, especially concerning the annexation of Crimea and military intervention in Ukraine. These nations include the US, members of the EU, and allies of NATO. To voice disapproval and demand respect for international law and Ukraine's sovereignty, diplomatic channels have been used. The United States, the European Union, and other nations place targeted economic sanctions on important Russian people, organizations, and industries, such as finance, energy, and defense, in reaction to Russia's activities. The purpose of these sanctions is to show support for the afflicted nations while applying economic pressure on Russia to stop further aggression. NATO partners have increased their military presence in Eastern Europe by carrying out rotational deployments and military drills to strengthen their collective defense capabilities and provide allies with reassurance against any feared Russian attack.
The US and NATO allies are working quickly to arm Ukraine.
Russian forces caught off guard, apparently in disarray.
NATO's commitment to deterring possible threats along its eastern flank is demonstrated by the development of an expanded forward presence in Poland and the Baltic states. Due to its actions, Russia is now diplomatically isolated on the world stage, and its membership in certain international forums and organizations has been suspended or limited. The goal of diplomatic efforts to isolate Russia is to highlight the international community's opposition to aggressive actions and to encourage conformity to accepted standards of state conduct.
That's why I'll be speaking to the G7 folks, so some of the heads of the European Union and NATO today. That's why I'm announcing more than 500 new sanctions in response.
Diplomatic channels are still available for communication and interaction with Russia on matters of shared interest, such as arms control, combating terrorism, and maintaining regional stability amid the tensions. Though they are often accompanied by suspicion and enduring disagreements, dialogue processes offer the potential for positive participation and conflict resolution. Putin's imperialist ideology has drawn criticism from both inside and outside of his country. His opponents claim that human rights, democracy, and the welfare of the Russian people are sacrificed in the course of his quest for power and influence. There has been significant condemnation of the suppression of political opposition and the attack on civil freedoms. Putin's actions have sparked doubt and anxiety on a global scale. Increased tensions and a reassessment of international alliances result from the perception held by many nations that Russia's imperialist aspirations pose a threat to peace and stability. Putin's imperialist vision is still unclear about its future. Even if his activities have changed the geopolitical environment globally, his goals face obstacles and restrictions. Russia's aspirations to become an imperialist state are severely hampered by demographic issues, economic limitations, and the growth of alternative power centers. Moreover, the reaction of the international community to Putin's activities has demonstrated that his imperialist vision can only be carried to a certain extent before significant opposition. To sum up, Putin's imperialist ideology is a complicated and varied phenomenon. With its roots in Russian imperialism's past, Putin's ascent to power and activities since then have been motivated by a desire to make Russia once again a major player on the world stage. Putin's idea of empire has had a profound effect on surrounding countries, causing tensions with the international community, conflict, and instability. Gaining a grasp of the complexities of Putin's imperialist worldview allows us to make important connections between Russia's influence on the global order and the dynamics of modern politics. So what are your views on this complex topic? Let us know in the comments below.
И в конечном итоге придать этой норме постоянный характер, как это и предусмотрено в Минских соглашениях, о которых я упомянул в начале. Следует затягивать и с выполнением других обязательств,
а именно об амнистии и законодательном запрете уголовного преследования лиц, участвовавших в событиях на юго-востоке страны.